On the way there, I stop at a red light, and this woman behind me plows into me so hard that she slams me into the car in front of me. And it didn't hurt that bad, but it was a bad enough. We had to wait for the cops to get there. I mean, suffice it to say, I totally missed the funeral. I wasn't just upset that I got hit by a car. Who she just said, "I'm sorry, I was texting and I didn't notice you were that close," which made it even worse. And, Doc, you know about this, but like with a whiplash, you don't feel it immediately. I don't know why, but you don't. So I went, insurance covered it, and we got through it. But it was one of those things I thought, where the heck did this come from? I mean, I'm all about creating my day, and this was not in the plans for creation. And then I started, it took me several nights before it dawned on me what it was, but every time I'd lay down to sleep, I'd be like, God, what is going on with my neck? And I was having terrible headaches. And one night I thought, oh, I've got a freaking whiplash. I hadn't even connected those dots. And then I went through this period of, I would go through the same thing every night. I would lay down, I would feel the pain, I would get the headache, and then I would think, that idiot woman. I would go through those same thoughts every time, like, what is that woman looking at her? Her carelessness cost me so much. Here I am 2 months down the road, I'm feeling this for her carelessness. And I would just, like, every night I would get madder and madder about it. When I'd go this, it became a nightly rite of passage. It's like, brush my teeth, lay down, get mad at the lady that gave you the headache. And one night it occurred to me, oh, I've got energy attached to her that is keeping this thing alive between the two of us. And I remember sitting up in bed. I thought, I've got to forgive this woman, and I forgave her. And I can't tell you that the pain went away like immediately, but within about 48 hours, it was gone. And it taught me something. It's like, well, there's more happening around us than we realize because of energy and vibration. What's that got to do with communion? Hang on. It's something I've never said before, but I deeply believe what I'm about to tell you. Any of you that came through the charismatic movement, you knew anything about inner healing and any of those sort of moves in that line of thinking. You used to hear people talk about cutting soul ties. I don't know if you ever heard that before, but any of you that ever used to follow prophetess Juanita Bynum, she had a famous teaching called Sheets. It was about, she'd have all these sheets tied to her, and it's about everybody you've ever slept with. You're still carrying a soul tied to them. So there was that's what made her famous. She made millions off that teaching. You have no idea how lucrative it was for her. And because it really resonated with people, because you think, well, there's people in my life that have affected me that I've got to cut the tie with. And I've taught, even this week, Avery shared a meditation that I posted where I said you have to lay the axe to the root of every word that's been spoken to you that has made you feel less than. And I do believe that. I think there are words that are still working in you that have people spoken against you that you have to intentionally disconnect from those words, or the vibration on those words keep, it's like perpetual motion. Y'all still with me? But I've come to believe this. I don't think, well, let me say this. A couple of falls ago, Ken and I went up to see my friend Howie. He was up at his cabin in Blairsville. And we were driving through the mountains, and we passed this little church up in the mountains that had like a old cemetery. You could tell it looked like Civil War. It was like old 1800s. And he said, y'all want to see something really cool? Yeah, what? Well, he had these divining rods in his car. They just look like skewers you use to shish kebab. He said, come here, let me show you something. And we went, and he said, hold these things in your hand. It's like a L-shaped thing. Hold them in your hand, not tightly. Hold them over a hand and stand over a grave and see what happens. And they would be askew like that, and when you stood over a grave, they would go, And it happened over and over and over and over again. It happened. We went to 3 different cemeteries. Everywhere we went where somebody had been buried, it automatically. And I said, oh, my God, I'm not making that move. He said, I know. It happens every time. And some people have developed such an art, they can tell where somebody's buried if there's not a marking on it. They can tell if it was male or female. I mean, there's a whole science to it. People used to use divining to find water. But there was this, and the next fall we were up there, we were driving around again. I said, hey, do you still have those things in your car? He said, yes, let's do it again. And it was a year later, we go, and I just can't get over it. Every grave you'd go to, it's like they would be like this, and they would go, every time. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. Somebody's body was laid here 150 years ago, and it's still emitting so much energy that it's causing these rods to respond. When the Creator speaks to Cain about his brother Abel, what did he say? He said, the blood of your brother cries out to me from the ground. So I've thought a lot about how does that work? Like, do we have, like, for instance, when we bought the house in Covington, the house in Covington was built in 1900. We bought it in 1999. I'm sure in all those years there, I'm sure somebody would have had to have died in that house. And during the time I lived there, people in their 70s or 80s would come by and say, "Can I see inside your house? I used to slide down that banister when I was a little girl back in 1917." So there was a lot of history to it. And we used to have, when we first moved in there, we used to have crazy stuff happen. I mean, like one night at 3 o'clock in the morning, every light in the house came on. We had a lot of things. Like one night I was sitting and watching TV late at night, and clear as a bell, I heard somebody right behind me just go, and it didn't scare me, but I just turned and said, go towards the light. You don't live here anymore. One night, Debbie and I were sitting watching TV, and there was what had one time been part of the veranda, sometime back during the 40s, had been closed in because a doctor lived there, and he used that for his waiting room. And just the door just opened. It went click, and it just went, and just like it happened. It finally settled down. But I talked to some other people who owned homes in that neighborhood, and they said, yeah, when you first move in or first remodel a house, it happens a lot. And it's not, Bishop, do you believe in ghosts? I don't think it's a ghost. I think it's the energy of people who lived lives there, that energy is still there. I didn't lose y'all, did I? So, this is what I'm thinking about. What's it got to do with soul ties? When are we going to take communion? Just hang on. Your car is safe. You've got a 2-hour window for your car there. You're fine. You're not going to see me again until the first Sunday of November. Well, you'll see me in Chattanooga. I don't believe that everybody you've ever encountered in your life you maintain energy with. I do believe there are people, especially if they live in your memory, you maintain energy with them. And it's affecting you every day of your life. And it never goes away. And just hear me out on this. For instance, have you ever thought, I have forgiven that person. I let that thing go. That's gone. You might even go old school and say, it's under the blood. And you wake up one day and you're furious at them. Like, what the heck? I thought I was all over this. Where did this come from? Y'all are too holy. That's never happened to you. That's why people say, if you haven't forgotten, you haven't forgiven. I'm like, in what universe? I mean, how do you, unless you have Alzheimer's or have had a lobotomy, how do you forget? I mean, so there might be some minor thing that somebody did to you, but there's things that people have done to me that I wish, God knows I wish I could forget. I mean, I remember exactly what they were wearing when they said it, when they did it, I usually remember the date, and I'm not trying to. It's like, how do I break the energy of that memory? It deeply affected me. So I don't know that you have energy exchange with everybody you encounter. But I have noticed this. This came up in my memories last week on Facebook, and I'd forgotten this. A year ago, it was, we were still kind of like in the middle of the whole George Floyd thing, and there was a lot going on. I was walking down Peachtree street in the afternoon. This young guy, kid, cute black kid. He looked like he's probably 14, 15 years old. He's on a scooter. They've outlawed him on the sidewalks now, but back then they were on the sidewalks everywhere. So I'm walking this way. He's coming up to me. I'm not even getting out of his way. I live in the city. I'm used to walking on sidewalks there. But he walked by. He scooted by me, and he looks at me. He goes, "Black Lives Matter?" And I said, "Yeah, bud, they do. Black Lives Matter." He said, "Good." And he just moved on. It was just a strange little energy exchange that we had. I don't know why he said that to me. It might have been important for him to have heard a middle-aged white man, notice I didn't say elderly, a middle-aged white man who didn't try to correct him with, "Young man, all lives matter." He didn't need that. I understood exactly what he meant. He's a young black kid who is seeing black men killed. And, it's a scary time for him. So he sees a white guy walking down the street. He just says it to me. He wasn't saying to anybody else. He said, "Black Lives Matter." I said, "Yeah, buddy, they do." And it was just like this little moment. He kept going. It was like zoom. But I totally got it. I thought, it's so interesting how you can have and you can have a negative one too. You can have somebody pull out in front of you in traffic and mess up your day, and you have this weird energy exchange. But this is what I've come to believe, in all due respect to Prophetess Bynum and all the people who talked about severing soul ties. I don't know that it's realistic. I think anybody that you've ever exchanged significant energy with, I think there's always a connection to them, and you have to decide if it's going to be positive or negative. Because if you just say, "You know what, I'm forgiving you for your abuse or whatever," and you go, "La, la, la, I'm done," I guarantee you there will be a day that you'll wake up and that thing's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. And you're going to think, "Oh, God, I thought I was done with this." And you're so not done with it. So, when he says, "I set before you life and death, blessing and cursing," it means that everything has the potential in your life to be a blessing or a curse. I have come to the conclusion that it's more realistic to say, everybody I've ever exchanged energy with, I still have some connection with them somewhere. So I'm going to see it as a positive, a lesson learned. You might not ever speak to them. Listen to me. I'm not talking to them about going to them and trying to make it right. For some people, that's never going to happen. You stop creating, that illusion that one of these days we're going to talk. No, there are, look, you can get your car messed up a little bit and take it to the shop and they'll fix it. Or somebody, an 18-wheeler can hit your car and they just say, "This thing's totaled." And that happens with relationships. It happens with good people. That you just say, too much has happened. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or I'm a bad person, but we've said too much. We've hurt each other too much. This thing can't be fixed. That's why I'm always I tell people, if you're married and you get mad, be careful throwing around the D word. Because once you ever get mad and say it, you've spoken it out there, and it's within the realm of possibility. I know a little bit about it. I've been divorced twice. I'm just saying, once it ever gets to that place, this is why I'm a terrible marriage counselor, because I just want to save people time. Because sometimes people come to me and I'm like, "Oh, y'all are in so much. I don't know that y'all gonna go to somebody better than me, because y'all have done so much damage to each other. I don't know. Maybe it can be fixed, but I'm like, maybe y'all need to start over." Seriously. Unless the only way I could see y'all staying together is if what you have dies and then is resurrected as something else. But y'all can't keep doing this, because I can tell y'all have already had this argument so many times that you might as well just write out a script for it. This is when you say this and they say that, and then you say this. And when you've lived with somebody for a long time, you can already anticipate what they're going to say back to you. I know, sure as I complain about this, you're going to say this. Sure enough, that is what happens, because you know them. Now, some of you might be saying, "Great, Bishop, I thought I'd finally gotten rid of the ghosts of some people in my life. And you're telling me I'm still energetically connected to them." I'm telling you, it's just a fact of life. I don't think it's everybody you've ever met, but it's anybody you've ever had some kind of strong connection with. That's why people who affected you in a really good way can also break your heart, because the connection is strong, the energy is strong. There's energy and vibration, and I've come to believe this about vibration so much that I don't necessarily think that everything I say comes to pass. I think it's the things that I say that have a high vibration on them. Do you know, it's like sometimes it's like, remember when I told you about when we were staying at some B&B and he was in the bathroom forever, and I was out there reading about how to raise your vibration. I was doing and so he comes out and he says, "I'm sorry, I'm taking so long. I've lost my contact lens. I cannot find it." I said, "I can find it. My vibration's high," didn't I? And I literally went like this, boom, and it was right there. And he'd been looking for it for like 30 minutes. But I can't do that all the time. Don't call me when you lose a contact and say, "You're good at that." No, you had to have been there. That's why when it comes to giving, have you ever heard a really, really good word that just really stirred you, and somebody took an offering and you gave more than you normally did because you were just so impacted by that word? I guarantee you that offering will yield more return for you than just a mechanical one will. It's because you gave it with a sense of passion on it. And it's the energy that's on the gift, not the gift itself. Jesus said the widow who gave 2 mites gave more than anybody else because of the energy that was on it. It's because it was a commitment energy. She gave all that she had. So when I think about these things, what's that got to do with communion? Let me tell you these 3 things that I believe will help you with this. Because everybody in this room has got people we wish we could forget. Lord, BJ just got his church hat on. When people say, "You just need to forget and move on," you're like, would to God I could forget. That would be awesome. Somebody tell me how to do that. These are the things I wrote down. Number 1, energy never dies. I mean, even science will tell you that. It doesn't. Technically, energy can't be created or destroyed. It just becomes something else. So whatever you've had with somebody, you're still going to have it with them. You just have to change what it is. Believe me, what I'm saying is going to help you live your life more than me giving you some unrealistic platitude of, la, 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 I'm going to go through a forgiveness ritual and I'm never going to think about it. Yes, you'll think about them tomorrow. Doesn't mean you ever want to see them again. It means, this is what happens. The same way that when I would feel that whiplash, I would remember that woman. People have emotional scars that every time it happens, what do you think? You know, I'd been okay if that person had raped me. I'd be okay if that person hadn't divorced me. I'd be okay if that person hadn't fired me. I'd be okay if that friend hadn't stabbed me in the back. Everything was fine until that happened. And so what happens is you have that same thought you've had over and over and over again. And this is something I learned from Joe Dispenza. He says every time you remember an old thought like that, your body thinks it's happening right now. So your body goes through the trauma again and again and again. That's why I say if you need to talk about what happened to you, go talk to a therapist or somebody that can help you work through it. Don't just put it in every conversation you have. Because sometimes people will tell me something, like in the first 10 minutes, they've already told me the most horrible things that ever happened to them. And I think, how many times have you said this in your life? Where you've said this over and over again, and every time you do it, you push that button again. It's like the person that abused me, I got abused again and abused again. And every time I say it, my body relives it. Think about what your body has gone through. But now here's the piece that I think is super important. Good people are capable of doing bad things. Good people are capable of doing things to you that hurt you deeply that they have no idea how much it hurt you. You know I'm telling the truth. Because this is what happens. Let's say you have a parent that really did some damage to you that you're working through still in your adulthood. but they were a good person, and you don't want somebody to think bad about your daddy or your mama. And so you don't want to talk about it, because what it feels like, well, if I say what they did to me or how they made me feel, it makes it sound like I'm dishonoring them or disrespecting them. Listen, hear what the Spirit says. Don't get it twisted. They're two different things. Just because I think I'm a good person, and I'm sure I've hurt people in my life that probably are still working through it. I can guarantee I went through a period in my life for years when people left my ministry, I did not handle it well. Because, I got so good at just flipping. As recently as yesterday, somebody that used to go to church and now texted me and said, I don't know if you've heard, they mentioned 3 people who have recently died. They weren't sure. 2 died and 1 they're not sure about. Have you heard this? And I said, one of them I know. One of them was Patrick, who I know. I said, yes, I was with him last Saturday. That was taken on the 14th, and he died. He passed this past Monday. I said I was with him on Saturday. He passed on Monday. They're going to do a thing at their house on the 24th to honor him. I said, but the other 2 families haven't spoken to me in years. They cut me off, so I have no interaction with them at all. And I could tell the person's response was like, I'm surprised. I'm like, well, no, I have a whole nation of people that don't speak to me. So why would I know that they have COVID? I wouldn't. I haven't talked to them in at least a decade. I'm not mad at them. I'm just saying, like, we're severed. But I guarantee you there are people that left that I totally could have restored them if I had had my own insecurities better in check. But I got so used to people. I went through a period of time I wouldn't even meet new members because learn their names. Because why am I going to learn your name? I'm going to learn your name. You're going to call me for all this stuff. Because when you sit in hospitals with people and pick out the clothes for their husbands to be buried in and stuff, you bond with them. And then when they leave the church because you preached some sermon they didn't like, it takes a lot out of you. So I got to where I just don't tell me your name, because you won't be here that long, and I'm sure I'll say something controversial, and you'll go to David Payne's church and like with everybody else. So let me just tell you, this is the stop before you go there. This is where you go, before I offend you, and then especially if you're white, and you'll go there. If you're black, you'll probably go to a couple of these churches. I'm telling you, that's kind of where I was. I look back with that now and think that was horrible to do. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you at least follow up on people? You have to understand the way I'm wired. I told somebody the other day, Jesus left the 90 and 9 and went and found. I'm not like that. I'd be like, well, I guess they needed some space. Jesus is a better man than me, because I'm like, well, go with God. I guess. I hate to say that, but that's kind of the way I'm wired. Like Ernie was laughing about it. He said, man, if I tell you I'm not going to go to the, I need to be sure. If I tell you I'm not going to go on a meditation weekend, I need to be sure, because as you purge people so quick, as soon as they say I'm not going, they're off. I'm like, I don't mean it negatively. I'm just saying, well, you're not going. I don't want to harass you with all of these messages. I'm very good at goodbye. My ability to tell people goodbye has been well honed, but long before I was even in the ministry, even through my parents' ministry. So, but I think you have to compartmentalize. You can have a parent who was wonderful, when you're not trying to dishonor them, but you can't keep ignoring that they did some psychological damage with you that you need to deal with, because they might have died 30 years ago, but you still have an energetic bond with them. You hear me? It's true, but it's where people live. And then this is possibly the most important part of that piece. And I've told you this before, but hear me now. Forgiving a person is not excusing what they did. Understand, there are people that do inexcusable things. And sometimes it gets mixed up in your head if I forgive them, it sounds like I'm saying it's okay what they did. No, those are two separate things. You can say, I believe you are a valid person. I can also say, you nearly killed me. And those two things are separate things. You know, one thing that I thought was, and I have some ambivalence about the shack, you know, the story. I mean, there's things about it I like, things I don't like. One thing I thought was interesting, though, because this is spoiler alert, but, you know, the man's, as it his daughter gets kidnapped and sexually abused and murdered. And so the Holy Spirit tells him, find out why the man was the way that he was to begin with, so that you'll be able to deal with. Now, see, I think, well, if your kid was kidnapped and sexually abused, how can you ever make peace with that? You know, I'm like, how do you? Because to say I forgive them sounds like you're saying, it's okay. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I'd be one of those parents that would say, I understand when somebody takes a gun and goes, and I'm anti-gun, but I'm like, if you hurt my kids, that's a whole other thing. I'm gonna hurt you back. I feel like it's my duty, and if I go to jail for it, okay. But you can't hurt my babies. So sometimes forgiveness. I think sometimes forgiveness is premature. Like I hear something will happen to somebody, and the people will be like, what was the movie that Samuel L. Jackson was in? A Time to Kill, where he's on the witness stand, and only Sam Jackson could deliver this line. They said something about, can you forgive your daughter's killer? And he goes, hell no, I hope they burn in hell. I'm like, that's what a daddy is actually supposed to say. It wouldn't sound right for him to say, yes, I just feel like we all make mistakes. No, they raped and killed your daughters. That's what you're supposed to. That's what you're supposed to feel. So I totally get that. What I'm saying is just on a daily basis, you're just literally going to have two buckets and say, here's my forgiveness. Here's what they did. This is going to always be in the inexcusable column. This is never, ever going to be okay. I don't even need to hear your side of the story. It's not okay what you did. Now, the forgiveness piece is for me to convert this energy that I'm in it with you now. You did this thing to me. I can't just, unless I just lost my mind, I can't cut that out. So you're going to be in there somewhere. You're going to show up in a dream. Something's going to happen. I'm going to act out in some ways that you're still affecting me from something you did 40 years ago that I'm not even aware of. So I make peace with the fact that we will always be energetically connected. And now I'm going to convert that energy to say, what did not kill me is going to make me stronger. Joseph looked at his brothers. It was bad what they did. That was their little brother. They sold him into slavery when he was just like a little kid. He never had a life. They went on with their lives and got married and had children and lived close to Jacob, their father. He grew up in a prison on a false rape charge. And at the end of the story, the brothers don't even realize that it's him. He becomes the Pharaoh of Egypt. And when they realize it's him, they say, well, he's going to kill us. And understandably, you think about the years this kid's been rotting in an Egyptian prison plotting his revenge. Because he could have said, off with all their heads. And most people would say, well, He says, am I in the place of God? For you meant it for evil. He didn't let him off the hook. He says, you meant it for evil. I'm not excusing you. He said, you meant it for evil. But God used it for good. To save many people alive. It's the most powerful story of restoration, I think, that's in the Bible. Because what he says is, no, it was horrible what you did. But I'm far enough away from it now that I have some perspective on it. And I'm the Prince of Egypt now. Now, let me share this one more scripture with you, and then we're going to pass. We're not going to pass away. We're going to pass. Like, wow, Bishop, I didn't you tell me it's the last sermon I was ever going to hear. This is most of Paul's first letter to the Corinthians was a correction. It was kind of a rebuke letter because you name it, the Corinthians were just doing it wrong, including the communion, because they were just turning it into like a. When I say orgy, I don't necessarily think sex was involved, but it was definitely a drunken brawl. Definitely that. Like what was under the guise of communion service was just a party where everybody did stuff they regretted later. So he's having to get them in line. So he in chapter 11 of 1 Corinthians, he kind of sets them straight about it. But then in verse 23, he says, "For I received from the Lord that which I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus on the same night in which he was betrayed took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' In the same manner, he also took the cup after supper, saying, 'This cup is the new covenant in my blood. This do as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes.'" Now, we all know that. Everybody probably grew up, at least in a Protestant church. You might have had them in the Catholic church, but you had a communion table that said, "In remembrance of me." That's, if you went to a Baptist church, you for sure had one. But then he says this, "Therefore, whoever eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For he who eats and drinks in an unworthy manner eats and drinks judgment to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this reason many are weak and sick among you, and many have died. For if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged." Now, let me tell you about that little verse of Scripture. Paul said some things that, if you don't know how to rightly divide it, could scare the hell out of you. And this is one of them. I mean, I grew up, when they'd be passing that little cup and wine, I'd be like, "Oh, Lord, please forgive me that I think my next door neighbor is cute. I know I'm not supposed to think boys are cute, but please, God, just blind me so I can't see him." I'm 9, and I'm like, "Please don't ever let anybody know that I think Doug is cute." And because I was aware of this. I don't want to drink this and God kill me because, he's banning the sodomites from the land. I'm just 9. I don't even know what sodomy is. I just think it's cute. But I don't want to die. And if I die, then everybody will know I think my neighbor's cute. So to me, communion was, Lord, it's a lot of pressure. Because Paul said, I made the mistake of actually reading the Bible. If you've never read it, you can go on Facebook and argue with people all day long about what you think it says. If you've actually read it, you're like, that's not even what that says. But what I used to think that meant was, if you eat the bread or drink the cup and you're not totally right, you're going to die prematurely. And that's not what he says. He is saying there are people who are prematurely sick and weak, but it's because they didn't discern the Lord's body. Now, I don't want to lose my audience here, but let me say, I'm not saying that all sickness comes from this. Just try this in the days ahead in an experiment. The next time somebody's telling you a litany of all the medical things that are wrong with them, stop and listen to how they talk about other people. I'm not saying you can always connect those dots, but I've had several conversations, even recently, with people who will tell me the list of this is wrong with me, this is wrong with, and in the midst of that, they're also criticizing this person for wearing this and this person for doing this. And I think, I don't want to tell you this, but I think some of those things are connected. You might get to feeling better if you stop judging people so much. See, it's hard to hear, isn't it? For me, I want to be well. You tell me this could possibly make you healthier, I'm like, sign me up. Sign me up. Oh, you're saying possibly being too critical of people could affect my health? Say no more. I get it. I get it. You can walk into Metron buck naked and I'll be like, all right, sit in the back, but I'm not going to judge you. We may not want to look at it, but that's on you. That's on you. I'm not going to, not with a pandemic going on. I'm not going to go, did you see them? I cannot believe. I'm like, hey, put them in the back. Put them in the back. But I don't have an opinion because my energetic vibration with them might be too strong and I end up not discerning the Lord. They might not have anything to wear this morning. Who knows? You know why I'm saying that is just the other day I was driving down in front of Emory Hospital and there's a woman. I could tell she just got out of the hospital walking down the sidewalk stark naked. And it didn't even occur to me, like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, he's like, your eyes can't be like, am I seeing a naked woman? Like, yes, I am. And I don't know if she had just escaped from the hospital or whatever, but I just thought, well, God, I hope she, what am I going to do? I can't pull over, I mean, there were other people around, so I'm sure somebody saw her and took care of whatever the situation was. But I didn't judge that. I thought, good Lord, that's pretty sad when you're that drugged up. You don't even know you're walking down the street without any clothes on. So I know I've said a lot of stuff here. Take what you can deal with at this time. But don't you know I'm telling you the truth about the energetic connection you have with anybody? And it's never... Stop living in la-la land thinking that you're going to, I'm going to go to this therapist, they're going to tell me this, and then, boom, it's as if it never happened. No. It doesn't work that way. That's not the way the world works. It's recognizing you have affected my life, I have affected your life. We will, in some dimension, always have an energetic connection. So I'm going to change that energy. I don't know what you're going to do with it on your end, but on my end, it's going to make me better and stronger, and I'm going to become proactive, and I'm going to use it to maybe I'll help somebody else who's in a similar situation. I'm going to make this thing make me better. So it's on you. You deal with you however you want. But for me, this thing is going to end up being a blessing. I know you didn't mean it as a blessing. But dig this. Jacob wrestled with the angel and he said, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. May I suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, that you ought to be that way about every person you ever meet, every situation that comes to you. Say, I'm not going to let it go until it blesses me. Bishop, you don't know. No blessing to come out of that. Yeah, don't let it go. Now, does anybody know what happened to Jacob at the end of that fight? He limped away. He didn't just skip away like, la, 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 it never happened. No, it took something out of him. But he was blessed. This is why I don't tolerate victimization. It's like, no, don't let anybody victimize you. You get on top of it. You wrestle with it. But I might get hurt. Hell yeah, you're going to get hurt. Relationships hurt. So if yours is over, wrestle with it until you get a blessing. Wrestle with it until every person who's ever affected you, you can remember them and say, well, it was nice while it lasted. I got out of it what I could. I hope you can go on with your life. I'm going to be a better person because of this. And you can choose. Or you can let it destroy you, and 30 years from now, you'll still be telling the same story. I've talked to people before they'll tell me about their divorce or whatever. I'm like, when did it happen? In 1973. I'm like, wow, you need a new story. That's like a really old story. I'm not saying people aren't going to hurt you, but really, shouldn't somebody have hurt you since then? If you're just living, okay, I got to stop. Let's all stand. Ken, if you'll come forward and take this. Beth, if you'll come forward and take the other one. Just both of you stand right here. Do you understand what I'm saying about Jesus and the blood? Nobody's trivializing the cross. Do you understand? This is our connection with Jesus. May I also say that Jesus doesn't just love you, he actually likes you. And I'll tell you something else. Be likable. If you're constantly saying to people, why did you spend more time with me? Obviously, the fact that you're having to ask for it, if you're fun to be with, people want to spend time with you. If you have to keep convincing them of it, you might want to ask, why is it nobody wants to spend time with me? I know people want to spend time with me. I just know it. I'm fun. That's why today, Karen, I won't tell you it was a milestone birthday, but she told me, we're having lunch after this. She said, all I wanted for my birthday was to have lunch with you. So if you walk over to Opry DM and pull up a chair, we're going to tell you, nope, this is what she wanted for her birthday. I love you. Call me next week. I'll have lunch with you. Isn't that what you asked for? I'm all yours. I can't let you sit down and dominate the conversation. It's her birthday, so she gets all of me. Spirit of God, we sanctify these elements. We take them and believe for revelation of what they truly mean. You can pass them among the people. Michelle, I don't know if you have any music, even if you had some music for meditation, if you'll just play that while people are passing. And when you get this, just hold it. We'll all take and eat together. The juice is in the top. The bread is in the bottom. Okay? Yeah. You know it's what? I do not know if it's gluten-free. I don't know. I don't know that, Amanda. But it's very little, so I don't know. Look, if you, and I don't think it's alcoholic, but if it's an issue and you don't want to take it, it's fine. Just take it home with you and let it be symbolic to you. So, and if you're worried about the gluten, it's fine. The worst thing that ever happened to communion is people made a law out of it. But that's not what it's supposed to be. It was seriously, I think if you took it home with you and just kept it on your dresser, it would accomplish the same thing. But, yeah. All right. Well, if you've got it, flip it over and we'll take the bread first. On the night that Jesus was betrayed, he took bread and brake it and blessed it and said, "This is my body, which is broken for you." Jesus, we thank you for what you did. We know that we're not naked. We're not afraid. We're not hiding from the Creator in the Garden of Eden. We are righteous. We are right. And so with this, we celebrate our own rightness and we eat. Let us eat. And then you can flip it over. Then he took the cup and passed it among them and said, "This is my blood which is shed for you." You know, in 1 John it says, we have fellowship one with another, and the blood of Christ cleanses us from all sins. It's the forgiveness of sins comes when you have people in your life who accept you just like you are. It's not having to go to a priest in a confessional booth. It's having people who accept you just like you are, and you see yourself through their eyes. We celebrate what the blood really means. Let us drink. Now you commune with whatever that means to you. He's going to pass the tray, and if you want to put your trash on it, you can. But while you stand here, I speak a blessing over every energetic connection you have with anybody in your life, from the ones you love the most to the ones you hate the most or have hated. And I pray that the Spirit of God gives you the understanding of how to convert that energy. I pray that over every gift you've ever given, that it's out there and that you keep the good, positive energy on it so that you continue to harvest a good energy from that thing. I speak a blessing over you. I speak health over you. I speak recovery over you. I send it out to other people who are connected with Metron, including Fred's daughter, Ashley. Speak it to Rosalind. Anybody who's not here today because of sickness in their body, I thank you that they discern it and perceive it, and they move into a new freedom. We don't have to hide behind our victimization. We don't have to be validated by a victim story. We transfer the energy and even bless our enemies, even the ones that hurt us the most. We supernaturally bless them so that we do not self-sabotage and hurt ourselves with the memory of it anymore. And we keep that energy positive and blessed. Just sit with this for just a moment. I'm going to let you out here in just a minute, but just sit with this. Some of you have your hands raised. That's beautiful. Do what feels organic to you. Respond to the Spirit of God in the way that is authentic to you. Thank you, Spirit of God. Thank you, Spirit of God. Thank you, Spirit of God. I speak life to your spirit, peace to your mind, health to your body. I release abundance, wellness, and wholeness. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Oh, praise the Lord. Anybody get anything out of this today? Just remain standing, please. Oh, yes. Please, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, sit down for a second. Let me show you. Thank you, Michelle. BJ, we got time. It's just a quick one. BJ, I'm glad we waited at the end to show that. The lyrics to that, it's like we had planned it. It's like what I just taught on. And I didn't thought about that. I love that song. That's not Alicia Keys. Who is that? India Irie? Yeah. India Irie, yeah. Oh, wow. You did a great job with that, BJ. And, but, boy, that was divinely orchestrated. I'm glad we waited to the end. All right. Now you can stand. Let's play this.
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. You can give any time using any smartphone. Text the amount you would like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit bishopandnow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
Thank you for being here. I hope to see you in October in Chattanooga. If not, I will see you the first Sunday of November back here. On your way out, be sensitive. I mean, I'm okay with you hugging me. We're fine. We're vaxxed. You just be sensitive to other people. They may not be that comfortable with it. So there's nothing wrong with giving somebody the right elbow of fellowship. All right. God bless you. Go in peace. I love you so much. Peace.